Coming up on the Q30 Newscast, we have more on a recent award received by Quinnipiac's Physician Assistant Program, and more on the results of the annual Q-thon dance fundraiser this past weekend.
And how to prepare for the coming months with course registration and graduation tickets. And we take a look at a recent critical conversation held earlier this week.
Plus, all you need to know about this year's Wake the Giant performance.
All that and more coming up on the Q30 Newscast.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Q30 Newscast. I'm Emily Sweeney.
And I'm Gage Kilborn. We have a lot to get into this week, so why don't we get started?
Yes, Gage, we have a lot of news to cover, from Connecticut sports betting to adulting workshops on campus.
Quinnipiac's PA program was just recognized for their volunteer work to raise money for the National Kidney Foundation. Q30 News' Sydney Weimer has more.
Quinnipiac's Physician Assistant Program has recently been awarded with a very special recognition. On March 14th, the program was honored with a Volunteer of the Year award gifted on behalf of the National Kidney Foundation. The foundation is a national charity with a center located in Hamden. It is supported by Quinnipiac's PA School through alumni and connections that support the cause's mission. The reward was presented to Quinnipiac PA student representative during a ceremonial night of hope, in which local leaders who have worked to fundraise for the foundation are recognized for outstanding efforts. The importance of the ceremony is significant, as student attendees from Quinnipiac currently enrolled in PA school share how touching the event was to attend.
I was asked to go there to help accept the award on behalf of my classmates, and it just really was able to remind us that we're such a part of a bigger cause.
It is also emphasized that a main focus of the program is to not only learn how to apply hands-on treatment, but also to understand the importance of spreading love and meaning behind the career.
Helping our community in regards to public health issues is one of the best ways that us as physician assistants can get involved.
Fundraising was shared to be the main contributor of why the program was gifted this award. Efforts include events such as awareness walks, donation ceremonies, among other welcoming activities hosted by students and faculty. Professors helping to organize the volunteer work and efforts of the PA program also spoke on why such an award is crucial for Quinnipiac's reputation.
So it really just shows that our students are committed to the things that they say they're committed to, and that we follow through on our relationships with the community, and are passionate about giving back to the greater New Haven area.
This award could not have been made possible without the compassionate efforts of Quinnipiac PA students and faculty working to give back to the local community. Reporting from the School of Health Science on Quinnipiac's North Haven campus, Sydney Weimer, Q30 News.
The 35th annual Thurgood Marshall Awards ceremony happened earlier today, and 2 awards were given out. The Thurgood Marshall Award recipient was Honorable L. Scott Melville, and the Community Service Award recipient was U.S. Secretary of Education Dr. Miguel A. Cardona, a Connecticut native that zoomed into the event to accept the award. Moving from awards to diplomas, Gage and I both know this all too well, but graduation season is right around the corner, which means it is almost time for those QU graduates like myself to order our commencement tickets. Those graduating this May will receive a link to register for those ceremony tickets in their email on April 2nd and on April 3rd, depending on which school they are graduating from. Children under the age of 3 will not require a ticket for entry, and graduating students will also not need a ticket. Here is a cue card for more information up right now. Each graduating student can receive up to 7 tickets. And for those family members who are unable to attend, each commencement will also be live streamed.
Now, for those of you students that are currently still going to be in class next semester, course registration for the upcoming fall semester is about to open in a few days. The criteria will be raised on how many credits you have earned so far at college. Students have over 87 credits can begin on April 1st, while students between 57 to 86 will begin on April 2nd, and so on. Following April 5th, open course registration will begin on April 8th through the April 19th.
Gage, I'd say right after which courses people are taking, the next most important thing to them is where they will be living. And look at that, housing numbers were just released earlier today. The housing selections will be based off of the students' rising class year and the number they were provided in My Housing, which corresponds to a certain time. Rising sophomores will choose housing on April 3rd and 4th, rising juniors on April 9th and 10th, and rising seniors should have already made their selections on November 16th. Quinnipiac just received a $40,000 grant from the Connecticut Tech Talent Accelerator. This is a state-funded program to develop pathways from higher education into tech jobs in the state business and nonprofit sectors. The funding has enabled Quinnipiac to develop new online micro-credential courses, including ethical hacking and penetration testing, cybersecurity in healthcare, and cybersecurity in financial technology.
A Quinnipiac alumnus founded a $500,000 scholarship program for the School of Law. School of Law alumnus Brooke Goff started the program as a way to create more success stories. Goff stated, quote, "I wanted to give back to not only the school, but to give back to young women," end quote. Anyone is able to apply for the scholarship, which will be given to 2 applicants annually. This past weekend, Quinnipiac held its annual Q30 event as a way to support funding for the Connecticut Children's Hospital. For more on the story, here's Joe Monty.
Q30, Quinnipiac's annual fundraising finale for Connecticut Children's, was on March 23rd, nearly a week ago. The amount of money raised over the course of the last year was revealed to the Quinnipiac community and families of children who benefit from Connecticut Children's care.
Our mission is to improve the physical, social, and emotional health of children in Connecticut and beyond. Any condition you have, we are pretty much able to come in and help to some degree.
Members of Quinnipiac raised over $140,000 to help fund that care. The executive director of Q30, Emma Conklin, explains how.
We put a lot of time and effort into planning events to raise awareness for our organization. So it's a lot of just recruiting participants on campus and then sparking their passion, helping them find their why. That in turn helps them want to fundraise for us.
The amount of money raised this year was the largest amount raised in the last 2 years. Now many wonder where the money goes and how it helps children in need.
Whether it's new tower, new program, direct care for families that need something more specialized, we can use it for whatever is at the top of the priority list at that moment.
The money always goes towards helping children, and in many cases helps Connecticut Children's expand its options for care.
In Hartford, on our Hartford campus, we're having a new 8-story tower put in that'll be doubling our clinical space and ability to treat. Most of the donations that we're receiving are really supporting all of the new programs and the staffing and the construction of this tower.
Many members of the Quinnipiac community are thrilled to be able to help give children in need the care they deserve.
Every time I think about it, it just sparks my joy. I am so glad that I joined this organization.
Connecticut Children's expresses the importance of fundraisers like Q30 and why they're so beneficial to child care.
We're just appreciative that we have students that are touched by our mission and want to take the time to run large-scale events that are super fun and do it for a good cause.
Reporting from Quinnipiac, I'm Joe Monty, Q30 News.
Because it's National Joe Day today, I just wanted to say Happy National Joe Day to you, Joe. Now, the M&T Bank Center for Women and Business hosted a panel discussion earlier on today. The discussion was about the cultural shift in understanding work-life balance and was focused on women returning to the workforce and lead dads. Here is more from that discussion.
Historically, we've talked about the world of work and life, and we have oftentimes led with work. So it's always work/life balance. And I think where we're moving towards and what employees want and desire and what employers need to embrace is life-work balance.
Gage, later on we're gonna talk about some vision boards, but do you know what I would put on my vision board?
What's that, Emily?
Some more news, which we'll get to after a commercial break, but also some sunny weather to get those good vibrations going.
You know, Emily, I love the good vibrations as well, so I'm wondering if that vision can become a quick reality. Let's head to Andrew Reynolds to find out the 3-day forecast.
Thanks, Emily and Gage. As we look at the 3-day forecast for the week, today was kind of a nicer day at the beginning, and then it started to rain with a high of 57 degrees, low of 37. Tomorrow, when we look at the all right, let me restart this. I'm not like the way I did it. All right, let's read it.
Julian Crosley has more.
The Office of Inclusive Excellence is continuing their Critical Conversation series as they welcome author and National Ambassador for Bravest Angels, John Wood Jr. Wood's presentation centered around the topics of political polarization in the U.S., the things that promote it, and how to break down these borders when talking to adversaries. He classified a few main promoters for political polarization, the first being financial motives. Both politicians and the news media have a vested interest in Americans being extremely polarized so they can make the most profit off a radicalized audience.
At the same time, more or less, as the parties adopting a strategic model bent on, rather than appealing to the greatest sort of breadth of ideological diversity in American society, capturing dominance among one ideological type or the other.
Wood moved into commenting on how social media can be polarizing as the algorithm works to promote content that has the most interaction, which tends to be subjects with a lot of discourse in the comments.
By unforeseen consequences of the evolution of technology, in a way that delivers us to a moment where American democracy and stability of its institutions feels weaker than it has for many Americans in a very long time.
Wood emphasized that polarization is a natural progression of society, but these factors pushed it to the social climate we currently live in. He also highlighted the importance of establishing trust across the aisle and how humanizing opponents can make it easier to see their perspective. Wood also alluded to a sect of Bravest Angels, a group focused on depolarization and bridging the gap, possibly coming to Quinnipiac University.
The next critical conversation is set to take place this Thursday. Stay tuned to learn more on how to attend. Reporting from CCE 101, I'm Evangeline Crossley, Q30 News.
Now, if you're bummed about missing this critical conversation, don't worry. There will be another critical conversation tomorrow with Connecticut Senate President pro tempore Martin Looney and Themis Claritas. The duo discusses how they handled agreements and arguments and how the two put aside their differences to come to reasonable decisions. This conversation will be moderated by School of Law Dean Jennifer Brown.
Now it's time to move on from Connecticut, hop on a jet, and go to some international news. And for that, we have Keenan Mills.
Thank you, guys. There were plenty of stories across the globe throughout the last week. Let's jump right into it. Friday saw an attack in a Moscow concert hall that killed over 130 people. This comes days after President Putin won another election to stay in power for another 6 years. The Islamic State group claimed responsibility following the attack. Russian state officials are investigating this attack as an act of terrorism. Allegedly, American officials had heard of a possible attack from a group in Afghanistan and warned Russian authorities. Sunday saw 4 men who were accused with connections to the attack go before a Moscow court. They appeared to be significantly beaten. 2 of them have accepted their guilt in the attack. The 4, all apparently citizens of Tajikistan, are going to be held in custody with the charge of committing a terrorist attack resulting in the death of others. The whole nation of Russia observed a day of mourning on Friday to honor the lives lost. Moving to the conflict in Gaza, the United Nations Security Council passed a resolution on Monday that would result in an immediate ceasefire. Among a ceasefire, the resolution also requires the immediate release of all hostages. For the U.S., they abstained from the vote, which breaks tradition of its alliance with Israel. American officials have said that this is not a binding agreement. However, officials from other countries, such as the Chinese UN ambassador, have said that it is as binding as international law. The council, consisting of 15 members, voted in favor by a total of 14-0, with American representatives being the only nation to abstain from the vote. Israeli officials stated that they have no intention on going through with the ceasefire. Since October 7th, attacks in Gaza have seen over 32,000 Palestinian deaths. Despite the agreement on Monday, Israeli attacks resumed on Tuesday in Gaza. This is just another example of Israel's support continuing to dwindle as the war continues. That will wrap up international news. Emily, Gage, back to you.
Now we took a little trip, but we're going to hop back on that jet and head back to Connecticut, where a presidential candidate will be speaking.
That's right, Emily. U.S. presidential candidate Marianne Williamson is visiting New Haven on May 28th at 4 p.m.
Williamson will be speaking about her vision for the country, the planet, and her priorities through this campaign event at the Wilson Branch Library in New Haven.
Earlier this evening, former U.S. Senator Joseph Lieberman, at 82, passed due to complications from a fall. Lieberman passed in New York City with his family and wife by his side.
Lieberman was on the ticket for vice president with Al Gore in 2000. He was the Attorney General from 1983 to 1989 and the Connecticut Senator from 1989 to 2013. His work for the nation will be remembered. Lieberman was recently at Quinnipiac on March 7th.
Now that we are speaking about presidential candidates, why don't we move to some political news?
Yes, and for news on all things politics this week, we have Ben Kane.
Thanks, guys. The first of former President Donald Trump's 4 criminal trials will begin on April 15th. This all comes after a Manhattan judge tore into Trump's lawyers for what he said were unfounded claims that the hush money case had been tainted by prosecutorial misconduct. The case involves allegations related to hush money paid during Trump's 2016 campaign to cover up marital infidelity claims. However, a trial addressing such had been delayed after the presumptive Republican nominee's lawyers complained about a recent discovery of almost 200,000 pages of evidence from a previous federal investigation on the subject. Trump will also be on trial for a criminal case later this year in Florida over charges of mishandling classified documents, as well as attend a hearing in Atlanta over state charges that he attempted to overturn the 2020 election, and that date has been set for tomorrow, March 28th. Now shifting to the Democratic Party, the administration of President Joe Biden has announced a new round of $5.8 billion in student loan forgiveness for more than 77,000 borrowers. The debt relief is part of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which allows workers in certain fields to have student debt canceled after making payments for 10 years. Fields eligible for loan relief include teachers, first responders, nonprofit workers, government employees, and many more. Biden's administration has been implementing a series of fixes, making the number of borrowers jump to nearly 900,000 since 2021. An additional total of nearly 380 borrowers who are within 2 years of receiving forgiveness will also get emails soon to inform them of that. They'll be eligible for forgiveness within a 2-year span if they continue to work in public service. Finally, the pick is in for the third-party candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s running mate in the upcoming election. Lawyer and philanthropist Nicole Shanahan will serve alongside Kennedy after he made the announcement during a campaign event in her hometown of Oakland, California. Kennedy said he liked Shanahan for her commitment to health and organic foods and, quote, deep inside knowledge of how the technology industry uses artificial intelligence to manipulate the public and identify government abuse, end quote. Shanahan has committed $100 million over the course of her lifetime to promote female longevity and has already seeded the creation of the Buck Institute Center for Reproductive Longevity and Equality with a $6 million donation. Shanahan said if given the role, she would address concerns of chronic disease by using artificial intelligence to examine medical databases. Now, unfortunately, that's all the time I have for this Q30 political update, so let's send it back to the desk.
Thanks, Ben. Now it's unfortunately time to take our first commercial break of the night, but we still have so much more to discuss.
That's right. We've got stories from across the country and the results of the ECAC tournament for the Quinnipiac men's ice hockey team. Stick with us.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. It's here. It's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
Honey, what I think you need is a socket wrench.
I played JV basketball.
I'm sorry. I don't think it looks right.
This is good, and it's all good, baby.
Is it really all good?
If you love me enough to routinely test your handyman skills, not to mention the strength of your marriage, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/therightseat to make sure I'm in the right car seat.
I'm gonna call my dad.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Welcome back to the Q30 Newscast. Now, Gage, Andrew gave us that sneak preview of the weather earlier, but I just need to know if my Easter egg hunt this weekend is going to be in rain, snow, or shine.
You know, I agree with you completely on that, Emily, but why don't we find out if we're going to be back to Andrew for a more in-depth weather report. Andrew?
Thanks, Emily and Gage. And we talked about the first 3 days, but let's go to the end of towards the weekend. Is when we get to Saturday, high of 57 degrees and a low of 34. It's going to be a little bit sunny out to start off the weekend. As we get into Easter Sunday, it'll be a high of 60 degrees. So if you're going to spend some time outside with the family on Easter, it's going to be a beautiful day to do so. But as we get to the the beginning of next week, it's going to be a little bit more on the colder side. If you get the overcast as high, can get a little bit lower 50s and mid 50s as well. And when we look around Connecticut now, we'll start off in Torrington. It is going to be a high of 48 degrees, and for tomorrow, it's going to be raining throughout the entirety of Connecticut, and you're going to see that all over this map right here. It's going to reach up to the high of the 50s, mid 50s, and then obviously the high 40s will be the average high around Connecticut. And that's all for the forecast. Send it back to Gage and Emily at the desk.
Quinnipiac has been holding a Good Vibrations Real Talk series since late February. This is a 7-week series of wellness topics designed to promote the well-being and mental health of QU students. The next talk will be happening on March 28th and is focused on goal setting and vision boards.
Earlier today, the university had an adulting seminar on how to be an active member in your community through philanthropy. They also taught students how to support certain causes that you care about.
Quinnipiac's Global Asset Management Education Forum was held this past Thursday and Friday at the New York Marriott Marquis. Participants were offered the opportunity to discuss and debate financial practices with world-renowned industry leaders. Finance students from all over America and Canada ran this event, and Quinnipiac provided transportation for its students to attend as well. For more on this event, we spoke to Aiden Green, the president of the student organization that represented Quinnipiac in the forum.
GAME Forum, so GAME stands for Global Asset Management and Education. It is a conference held each year by Quinnipiac University. It is actually the largest student-run investment/financial conference in the world. If you're a Quinnipiac student, coming to this event, you get to see the fruits of your labor that started all the way back in September. So I think the biggest skills that you learn as a Quinnipiac student are time management, project management, overall just problem solving.
Speaking of the nation, I think it's time we get some national news from Patrick Walsh.
Thanks, guys. The Francis Scott Key Bridge, which carried 4 lanes of Interstate 695, a beltway of Baltimore, collapsed early Tuesday morning when a container ship collided with one of the bridge's supports, sending the 1,200-foot span plunging 185 feet into Baltimore Harbor below. The ship suffered an electrical failure after leaving the port of Baltimore and was able to send a mayday call, allowing officials to close the road and evacuate the bridge. 8 construction workers who were fixing potholes are known to have fallen into the harbor, with 2 being rescued, 2 bodies being recovered, and 4 still missing. All members of the ship's crew have been accounted for. President Biden responded to the tragedy saying the people who blocked traffic, quote, undoubtedly saved lives, end quote. Maryland Governor Wes Moore said reconstructing the bridge would be a, quote, long-term build, end quote. Moving to the Midwest, the 22-year-old University of Missouri senior Riley Strain's death still seems to have been accidental, according to a preliminary autopsy exam conducted over the weekend. Strain was missing for over 2 weeks following a spring break trip to Nashville. His body was found on Friday in the Cumberland River, about 8 miles west of the Tennessee capital. Strain went missing on March 8th after drinking at Luke's 32 Bridge, a bar in downtown Nashville. He was asked to leave and was escorted out of the establishment just before 10 p.m. Searchers eventually found Strain's bank card on the riverbanks after combing through security footage showing Strain stumbling along city streets. The country is seeing some new laws. O-Pill, the first birth control pill approved to be sold without a prescription, has begun sales at some Walgreens stores. The pill is also available online from Amazon, CVS, Walgreens, and the O-Pill website. It is the first time U.S. residents can buy birth control pills over the counter, though many states still allow pharmacists to give birth control pills to patients without a prescription. The Food and Drug Administration approved the pill for over-the-counter sales in July, but the drugs maker Perrigo didn't ship batches to retailers until March 4th. The O-Pill website has a map of stores where the drug is available, including some nearby in Connecticut. That's all I have for national news. Back to you, Gage and Emily, at the desk.
Thanks, Patrick. And with that, we have one commercial break left, and it's now time to take it. But we still have so much on deck for this week.
Yeah, that's right. We have Zach Taranko with some sports news and a cultural game show. Even you don't want to miss. Stay tuned.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer. She's on the honor roll. She's just not the type.
No way.
No way. No way.
No way. My kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping. Maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Drew, spot me on this last one. There it is.
Keep going with it. Leo. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Welcome back to the Q30 Newscast. Now we're going to sprint right into some sports news from this past week.
And for that, we have Zach Taranko to throw that news at us. Zach?
Thanks, guys. Spring sports are starting to get in the rhythm of things. We are going to start on the ice. Over the weekend, the Quinnipiac men's ice hockey team traveled up to Lake Placid for the ECAC semifinal playoff game against the St. Lawrence Saints. The Bobcats went in with high hopes but underperformed and fell to the Saints 3-0. The Bobcats had numerous chances in the game, but Saints goaltender Ben Cross had a stellar showing, making all 22 saves. The second goal of the game was reviewed for a possible kicking motion by Max Dorrington, but the goal was allowed after review, putting the Bobcats in a hole they just couldn't climb out of. Tomas Mazur and Ty Nakin scored the other goals for the St. Lawrence in the win. Quinnipiac now moves on to the national tournament where they will face off against Wisconsin on Friday. Quinnipiac men's lacrosse took the trip to Marist, hoping to keep their undefeated streak alive. And that's exactly what they did, beating the Red Foxes 13-10 in a wild game. The Bobcats' crucial 6-goal second quarter helped them outlast Marist. Ryan Donnery produced 6 points for the Bobcats, and Mason Oak made 11 big saves in the win. After the win, the Bobcats were the only Division I team left in the country to still be undefeated. But this afternoon, that streak ended when they lost 15-12 to the Manhattan Jaspers. They also moved into 20th place nationally in the Inside Lacrosse Division I rankings, their first time being ranked since 2013. And Quinnipiac baseball opened their season of MAC play this past weekend against the defending MAC champions, the Rider Broncs, in a 3-game series with a doubleheader on Friday. The Bobcats defense struggled throughout the weekend, losing the first game 11-3 and the second game 11-8. Christian Smith and Sebastian Mueller homered in Game 2, keeping it close all the way to the 9th inning when Bronx catcher Brian Scatini hit a 3-run shot to left field to break the tie. It seemed like 11 was the Bronx' lucky number as they scored 11 runs in Game 3 to sweep the weekend series. Head coach John Delaney mentioned after the game that the Bobcats defense needs to be better as they move ahead in the season. From the ice to the grass, that's this week's update from sports. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Zach. And now, as you mentioned about Placid, and it was a fun experience. I was able to go and see, unfortunately, not the result that the men's ice hockey team was hoping for, but like we talked about earlier, was that, well, not talked about it yet, but it was about how last season when they lost in the semis to Colgate, they went on to win the national title.
Yes, and it could be a very similar situation this year. Maybe history will repeat itself, but Gage, what do we got next?
Yeah, you know what else is on my vision board, though, Emily?
What?
It's the performer for the Wake the Giant. And who it was announced earlier today. Who is it?
Yes, it was announced earlier today, and I am so eager to hear more about it. So we're going to go to Connor Core for more about the Wake the Giant performer.
This afternoon, the Student Programming Board officially announced Flo Rida as the 2024 Wake the Giant headliner. The concert will be taking place on Sunday, April 14th, inside the M&T Bank Arena on the York Hill campus. Tamar Flo Rida Dillard is one of the most recognizable names in hip-hop, rap, and pop. The Grammy-nominated artist had his breakthrough with the 2007 hit, Low. The song was #1 in the United States for 10 weeks. The song has been certified diamond by the Recording Industry Association of America for selling over 10 million copies. Other top songs include Right Round, I Don't Like It, I Love It, and My House. He released his last album in 2012. He has also made many features in songs during the 2010s with other big-name artists like Nicki Minaj, Ollie Murs, and Teo Cruz. On social media, the response has been relatively positive from Quinnipiac students. Tickets will be released next Friday only for undergraduate students. There is a limit of 1 ticket per student. Tickets on the floor will be $25 and general admissions to the stands will cost $20. Opening the event will be DJ Fire, starting at 8 that night. As the day gets closer, more information will be available on SPB's social media pages. Reporting for Q30 News, I'm Connor Core.
Now, this will sadly be my last time anchoring the Q30 Newscast. Throughout my time at Quinnipiac, I've been fortunate to call the people I've worked with as my friends and family. When I take the next step in my life, I will look at the world differently and think about how I can tell a story to those around me. I'd like to shout out to Kay Pattyfoot, Hannah Mursky, and Vanessa Blasi for being patient with this big sports guy as he was learning how to deliver the news to the audience in a proper tone. With this diversity in my media ability, I'm able to show more confidence when I look for a job in the news world. I'd also like to say to all the underclassmen to not be afraid to try something new. That is why we are in college, is to learn more about ourselves and what we would like to do. I would finally like to say thank you for your love and support.
Much like Gage, this will unfortunately be my final time hosting a Q30 newscast. While I still have about a month left before I say my final goodbye to the station and don't want to get too sappy, there is one thing that I do want to say now. I was a sports gal when it came to Q30, but I have also been a part of newscasts throughout my 4 years here sporadically, and that is severely integral to gaining knowledge in this field. Oftentimes, positions in sports media are hard to come by, and one thing that is always needed in any station is news. If you think about it, sports is also a subset of news in many ways. So many students feel that going on air for Sports Pause and Bobcat Breakdown are essential, and they are. But what people never realize until it is too late is that you are going to need a newsreel and news experience as you prepare for the future. So for all of the younger members of Q30, join news, take advantage of it, do segments and host. I promise you it will not only help you down the line, but it will also make you much better in this field in any capacity. And with that, this episode of the Q30 Newscast has come to an end. Make sure to stay up to date on all things Quinnipiac and Hamden News at Q30 News, on X, and at Q30TV.com.
A big thanks to all the producers and everyone behind the scenes. I'm Gage Kilborn.
And I'm Emily Sweeney. Have a newsworthy night, Bobcats.